this is a message that needs to get out. The science of how to organize and like really dissect it. Because honestly, most brothers don't know where to start. When you and you know they don't and they're scared to say it. They just or they, they prideful and ashamed and embarrassed. They don't just say, man. When you say brothers need unity, we need to get together. We need to come together and do this, and we need to do that, and we need to stop fighting and move. And the honest truth is, most brothers don't know where to start. They have no idea.
You're right.
Like, you'd ask them, hey, yo, brother, y'all need to get together and come together and create this, put down these stipulations and get together and you need to create this for your community. They would have no idea where the first place to start. But hold on, let me put on the share the screen.
You're right, because most of the time, all that sounds good, but where's the direction?
Where the hell do I start?
Yeah.
But you need to know, before you know where to start, again, me being a personal trainer, and this is with any personal trainer, the best personal trainers are the ones who explain to you why you're doing what you're doing and not just telling you to do this on repeat. All right, all right, give me 20 push-ups, and you say, well, instead of doing, versus 20 chest presses on the bench, you know what I'm saying? So, say, okay, well, and the average person would look at that and say, well, why couldn't I do 20 chest presses on the bench, instead of doing 20 push-ups? And so you would think, the average person would think, well, I'm still working each body part, the same body part, right? Chest and chest. No. See, a trainer would tell you the reason you want to do push-ups is because you're pretty much working every muscle in the body when you're doing a push-up. Shoulders, back, core, your legs, everything has to be sturdy and stabilize the chest from just falling face flat on the ground. So what happens is your body integrates, it works as one unit. It's an organism. It says, oh, the chest is being stressed. All right, then it basically blows a horn and says, everybody, it calls everybody to duty. Hey, the chest needs help, y'all. So what happens? The shoulders stabilize. Your biceps, triceps stabilize. Biceps and triceps are working in unison with the chest and they're involved in the exercise. So they're a part of the activity. Whereas then you got your core. The core is holding you up. What's helping the core? What's helping your core to stay up? Your hamstrings, your quads. That's keeping you from falling face flat, stomach flat, right on the ground. What else is helping that? Your back is helping to stabilize the core. All of these things are working as one unit. They're individual muscles, but they're all a part of one body, organism. And so they're all doing their separate things. The chest can work by itself when it needs to. You can just push up some weights off of a bench. When you're laying on the bench, nothing else is working. Everything is just rested. So the body doesn't have to over exert itself. Okay, your chest gets really strong. Your chest gets strong and it gets cut up. But what happens? Everything else suffers. The rest of the organism suffers because only one part of the organization or organism is getting worked out. It's getting stronger. Resistance working out, activity makes you stronger. Obstacles makes you stronger. So, it's an obstacle to push that weight up because gravity's pulling it down. So what's happening? The chest is getting stronger, but the back is chilling. The back don't need to work. It's working a little bit, but the back is laying on a bench. The butt is laying on the bench. Your abs is chilling. Your legs. Sometimes a lot of people put their feet on the bench too. So your legs ain't getting no workout. I don't know if you've been to the gym and seen that. So
yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
so you don't like so you're a person that probably don't like machines. You prefer people to use their body weight than to actually use machines.
No, I'm dude. If you haven't learned about, how long have you known me by now? What's my philosophy, man?
No, but I'm just saying, like, use everything. Use everything.
My
I got it.
philosophy is balance.
Yeah, I got you. But I'm just saying, a lot of people just be, when I be knowing just people at the gym, they just constantly on machines, and it's just like, damn, I don't think you should be on this all the time.
No, you're right. But see, most people don't, because most people don't understand the body is one organism that works together. All the muscles work together to help it out. Now, if you train the body to do that, you'll be stronger than anybody. That's why a person who works calisthenics, this is Conor McGregor's body trainer. So he's based. So his whole philosophy is the whole body wants to work as one unit together. So he's like, that's why he doesn't believe in just shoulder press or chest press. So right now what he's doing, he's loosening up the whole body together, getting it all in unison.
When you feel like you're nothing, but you wanna be something. Yeah.
Now, did you see that shit?
Yeah.
That nigga made that look like that was the easiest thing in the world to do.
And it is not.
Dude, it's probably one of the hardest things you can ever do. He just made it look like this nigga was making coffee. That's an organism in full power working together. He's trained his body to, when one muscle works, every muscle works all together. And then he's taking it to the most optimal level. And you can see with Conor McGregor what he can do. You know what I'm saying? With when he's in the ring. So just watch how crazy this dude is.
All you really need is hope. I just want you to trust me if you wanna be something. That's right. Let's go. Yeah, when you're feeling down and you're out, like you got nothing but doubt. You're alone in the crowd, just trying to figure it out. All of this loud and this money got you feeling left out. Listen up to me now, every word that's out of my mouth. Just wake up, it's me. You're gonna follow your dreams, or are you just gonna be another cog to see? Yeah, the hope in this beat, yeah, the hope that you need to succeed and be exactly what you wanted. I got hope right now, and I know I'll be down. I don't really care just what all other haters gotta say. I know everything I do is gonna make them fade away. Yeah, and when you feel like you're nothing, but you wanna be something. Yeah. All you really need is hope. I just want you to trust me if you wanna be something. Yeah.
This nigga's pulling himself up on a rope with one hand. This nigga's doing a rope climb with one hand. But it's not just his arm that allows him to do that. What's happening?
That's his whole body climbing.
What's happening is the reason he's not feeling the weight of his legs is because his core is sustaining his legs. His core and his butt is so strong, it's sustaining his legs. So his arms are not necessarily pulling that weight up itself. The core is stabilizing, holding it. So, dude, all I'm showing this is because it just shows how when the different parts of a body are working together in unison, what you can do. The reason we're showing that again is organism. So the body is an organism, right? But what is an organism? What is an organism? And what is an organization? So organization, as we've said, organization comes from the word, or it means that the etymology means that with which one works, right? That with which one works. So it means to work with something like in a harmonic state. All right. So the structure of the modern organization, which would be your corporations, trusts, foundations, all of those things are just, are modeled off of nature. But you have to understand how that works in order to have, to apply that to everyday life. You know what I'm saying? So that your your organization or corporation or whatever it is can be successful. But it takes a deeper understanding of what it is and how it's run in order to do that. So specifically for brothers, because Caucasians get this education, in you know, in the lower grade schools. You know what I'm saying? This is stuff that we're not taught, and we're not taught it on purpose. They don't want brothers to organize. If brothers organize, that's the last straw. So this type of information is left out. Period. Because they think, and really, if you think about it, if brothers would learn how to organize in school just on some sub level, but they were still trying to oppress brothers. They were still putting out all these oppressive, you know, terms and laws and, you know, and policies. If they taught organization, that wouldn't last that long. So they can't oppress you while teaching you how to get out of the oppression. So you don't learn organization in the hood. You can if you go to certain schools may teach it, but for the most part, you don't learn this. So, and this is the levels of organization and what organization is, or from an organism.
Looking at body system. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this new unit where we're going to be looking at body systems, and we're going to be talking about the differences between different types of body systems and how their structure, how it's actually built and made, how it actually relates to what it's capable of doing. You're going to see this phrase a lot in science: structure and function, and how they're related together. We're going to start with this first unit here, which is about levels of organization. You should remember, for example, what a cell is. So we learned about cells before. We talked about cells being kind of the smallest units of living things. And we're going to talk about today how different cells can kind of join up together, and then they can start to do bigger jobs, and we can organize these cells in different ways. So we're going to see all these levels coming up right here in a little bit. So you should know that you are a multicellular organism. That means you are a living thing that is made up of many cells. So if you're like Lego blocks, if you put a bunch of Lego blocks together, you can turn it into a U.
So again, a cell is the smallest unit of a living organism, right? Smallest unit of living organism, like a person. So a cell would be the equivalent of just one person.
Is one cell, for example. If a bunch of cells are next to each other, they can be grouped together into something called a tissue. We'll see this again. A bunch of tissues can organize together to become something that does a larger job, like an organ, like a stomach right here. The stomach can join together with a bunch of other things in your body that kind of are related and do similar things, like the small intestines, the liver, and this can become the digestive system. So it's one type of system. And then all these systems can work together to make one living thing. In this case, a you. This is not you. You are not a mouse. I am a mouse. Some people say I look cute like a mouse, but others say I'm not so cute. But let's just stick with cute. I am an organism, a living thing, and everything is awesome like that. So multicellular organisms, hopefully you understood that. Here's a few bullet points for you. Are made up of many cells. They have organ systems. So I have organ systems that can carry out life processes. I have a bunch of organs that work together in systems. My digestive system to help me eat and poopy. I have my circulatory system to help me move things around my body with my blood. I have my respiratory system that helps me to breathe as well too. We're going to talk about 5 layers of organization. Hierarchy is just a fancy word for ranking things in order. So we have different.
And what is a system? It's basically just a setup mode of operation, right? So these cells, excuse me, cells come together to form tissues. Tissue comes together to form organs, and organs come together to form organ systems. Right, so these are levels of unity, you know, compartmentalized. Got the very first thing started with just one motherfucker, just one thing, the cell. Then boom, all the other cells said, okay, well, in order for us to do something, we all have to come together as a cell group. That's the very first thing, that one cell can't do anything by itself. So we have to gather together to become, boom, tissue. And then so on and so forth.
Levels here. We're going to see many diagrams that are showing this. The first layer is called the cells. So that's the first layer we're talking about.
And just so we know, tissue is not a physical thing. See, where most people get the connotation or believe tissue is a physical thing. Tissue means to be woven together. It means to weave. So all of this stuff is still talking about working together. The cells come together. They have to come together to form tissue. Okay, and that's why they form a tissue, because the cells are woven together. They become one. And that's where the tissue, and that's where you get tissue.
This unit of life, the building blocks of life, which we talked about with these Legos here. For example, we have different types of cells like muscle cells, nerve cells, red blood cells. These are animal cells. In plants, we have like root hair cells and leaf cells. We learned about these when we did our cells unit a while ago. So that shouldn't be new information for you. Next, we're going to talk about what happens when we can put a bunch of these cells together. When you put a bunch of cells together, you get something called a tissue. And now we're at the second level of organization. So cells were the first level. Now when you put a bunch of cells together, you get a tissue. Not the kind you use to blow your nose, but tissues inside our body, the second level organization. So here's the definition. Make sure to write this down. A tissue is a group of similar cells that work together to carry out a specific function. Key things, work together, and then specific functions. So they do a specific job when they work together. For example, muscle tissue. So a bunch of muscle cells, like you can see here, a bunch of muscle cells are actually working together to contract, to make your body be able to move. Every time you're moving, you're contracting. It's a fancy word that means to shorten, but your muscles will shorten in order to help your...
Really quickly, so just to put more context, give it more context. So individually, as a cell, the cell may have an intention, but it doesn't have a function, meaning it's pre-programmed. Like you have hair cells and nail cells and, you know, and all the rest of these different cells that all do different things, right? They don't do them by themselves. They come together to form these groups of cells, and then those groups of cells form tissue that have a function. Now we have a unified purpose. We have an intent, what we're supposed to do, but we only can perform that function when we come together as one. Otherwise, we just have a good idea. That's the equivalent. We can't perform this, we can't carry out this wonderful, powerful idea, this intent that we have, until we all come together. Once we do that, then we can function.
Make your body be able to move. Every time you're moving, your muscle cells, like you can see here, a bunch of muscle cells are actually working together to contract, to make your body be able to move. Every time you're moving, you're contracting. It's a fancy word that means to shorten, but your muscles will shorten in order to help your bones to move, and you can actually move around. Inside plants, here's an example we're looking at over here. Inside plants, you have a special kind of tissue called xylem. Try to say that. What a cool word. I'm going to name my kid xylem. Xylem Lee. Xylem tissues are tubes that help to carry water. So actually H2O molecules, water is going to be traveling through these tubes here. Kind of like little straws, but super duper thin little straws. So that's the second level. Remember, first level was cells, second level tissue. Now we move on to the third level. We're going to talk about this a little bit here. Third level of organization is the organ, and the definition of an organ is an organ is made up of different tissues. Notice how to make the third level, we're combining things from the second level of organization. So an organ is made up of a group of different tissues that work to perform a specific function. Types of organs, you can probably name a bunch of these just looking at this handsome looking fellow right here. Examples of organs, we will see. We have the brain, and we'll start with the obvious ones you probably know. Brain is going to control the body. You probably know what this little guy does right here. Heart is going to pump blood around the body. We also have probably heard of the lungs, which will help us to breathe. They take in oxygen, remove carbon dioxide. This is nothing new for you. The stomach, one of my favorite parts, is where I put my food into, and that food has to go in other places as well too. We'll talk about that. One of my least favorite places is the bladder, which stores my urine. Fancy word for you know what. And then you get to a couple things here. I forgot to mention this one. I'll come to that in a second. There are three things here you probably have heard less about. The liver is the biggest organ in your body. It's this big thing right here. It helps to remove toxins or poisonous substances and keeps us healthy. The kidney is the thing that filters the blood and actually produces urine. So the blood goes through the kidney basically, and then the urine goes down these tubes and comes into the actual bladder that's stored.
So really quickly, again, third level of organization, you have the cell, the individual with an idea, with a purpose, has to gather together with people of like mind or like frequency. So the same harmony, they form tissue. Now, since we're a group, we're unified. Now we have a function. We can perform a function. All right, so can we do this on our own? No. We have to gather together with other tissues, which means other groups of cells with the same likeness. With the same purpose. And when we do that, we form an organ. So it's always greater levels of cooperation you have to have in order to get, greater results, greater functionality out of that system or organ or whatever it is. This is the basis of nature. This is the very base thing in the universe. You have to work with each other. You are literally this. And this is where the Kabbalion comes in, as above, so below. That's why that was so important, what they were teaching. Like, if you understand the body, you understand the universe, and vice versa. All you have to do is follow that. You're not different from that. What the hell makes you think you're any different from the systems and functions that's going on right here, that you step outside of that? All of the systems and all of this stuff that created all of this around here, something different created you. No. But this science was lost. It's definitely lost to us. It's not necessarily lost to the upper class societies, or the higher you get in these different class societies. They teach this in these schools, but that understanding has to come back.
Urine produces urine, so the blood goes through the kidney basically, and then the urine goes down these tubes and comes into the actual bladder that stores our urine. The intestine is the place that the food goes after the stomach, and we'll be talking about that in a little more detail later as well too. The intestines, if you wanted to play jump rope with an organ in your body, you would pull out your small intestines and stretch it across the room. Pretty long stuff. And then for plants, we have a few special organs as well too, like the stem. That's a special organ that holds the plant up. You also have a leaf for absorbing light and making food during photosynthesis. We learned this word when we're talking about plant cells. And then the root here, the root of the actual plant. The roots are organs that are anchored to the ground. It helps the plant to actually stay in the ground, and it helps to absorb water and minerals. So stuff in the soil, good stuff, has to actually go into the plant to keep it alive. And it's this organ, the root, that actually helps to bring those things into the actual plant. So that's the third level. Sorry. Now we get to the fourth level, and in the fourth level, now we're combining things from the third level. So the fourth level of organization, here's the definition. A group of different organs, remember an organ was from the third level. So now you have things from the third level joining together to perform a specific function. For example, the circulatory system right here is basically your blood system. That's what we're looking at up here. This blood system transports materials throughout the body using blood. So obviously if you get a cut and you start bleeding, you're losing some of the molecules, you're losing some of that liquid that's supposed to be carrying these things around. So that's an organ system. Plants mostly have just organs and tissues, but flowers are an example of an organ system. So here's a flower, and look at all these different parts that are working together to create this.
What does that look like?
That whole thing is the flower, right?
Yeah, this whole thing, he got the circle on this right here.
Oh, I'm looking at the one below it.
No,
That looks like a twat.
A what?
A twat of a JJ.
Boy.
Hey.
Respectful of the goddesses. Yeah. Yes, that's the womb. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to come up with.
Yes, it looks like the uterus, the womb. Absolutely.
I was looking at the one on the bottom. That's why I said sperm, because I was looking at the wrong thing.
Yeah, but no.
Particular organ system that has a function. Example of an organ system. So here's a flower, and look at all these different parts that are working together to create this particular organ system that has a function. It's got to attract birds or attract bees. This is how it can make babies. Basically, you have the pollen that's up here. You have the place where the pollen is supposed to actually attach to, and if pollen actually attaches there from another plant, it starts to grow down, and you can actually produce baby plants from that. So flowers are an organ system, an example of fourth level organization. They have male and female parts. They have male and female parts. These are considered male parts, and these are considered female parts as well too. So we can call that the reproductive system of plants. Now we move on to the final thing here, which is the actual organism. This is where you sit. In order for you to be a multicellular organism, you have to have all the different levels underneath as well too. So at the fifth level, now you're talking about the full living thing. So multicellular organism is made up of several organ systems. Remember, organ system, this stuff here is the fourth level of organization that works to perform all the processes needed for life. So up at the top, this is the fifth level right here, organism. For example, a human or Mr. Lee or Mr. Wilk. Organ systems like the circulatory system, digestive system are the fourth level. The third level, you have basically the organs like the heart. These are all examples. At the second level, you have tissues. So blood is an example of a tissue. That's something that people don't think of very often, but blood is actually a collection of red blood cells that are working together. And then at the very first level, you have your cells. So that's a nice little diagram to help you summarize here the 5 levels of organization and how we can actually create a living thing from.
So this is literally, you can equate this to the human body, or to an artificial person as well. So artificial persons, organizations, which are what organizations are, they're well, we'll not get into legally, but they're just basically larger cell systems. You know what I'm saying? Larger cell systems. So you got to start off with the one. We come together as a group, as the cell down here. All right, we all have an intent. What do we want to do? All right, boom. Excuse me. Or once we come together, then that creates once we all gather together. This is just the one person here. Once we gather together, that creates this level here. Now we can perform a function. All right, this is our function. This is what we do. This is what we are, I should say. This is what our purpose is. Now, moving on to the next one. This is what we do as an organ. This is what we function as. Excuse me, coming together with other tissues. So right here on this level, we got to gather together with more tissue to form this nigga. And on this level right here, we gather together with more organs to form organ systems. Then on the next level, boom, is right here. So that was that one. So we're going to go over, this one gives just a little breakdown. It's a little different breakdown. It's kind of the same, but it's quicker and it's like a little more concise and to the point. But the more you understand it, the more you go over and then understand it.
Life on Earth is organized into different levels based on degree of complexity. These levels range from the very small and simple, like the atom, to the very large and complex, such as the biosphere. They're organized into a type of hierarchy, with the larger levels enveloping the smaller levels, sort of like Russian nesting dolls. In this tutorial, we'll examine the complexity of life at the cellular, organismal, and populational levels of biological organization. Cellular organization begins with the atom, which is the basic unit of matter. Atoms combine with other atoms to form molecules, which in turn can combine to form macromolecules, like the DNA shown here, which is used to store hereditary information. Atoms, molecules, and macromolecules combine to form structures within cells, such as organelles, which are tiny compartments of eukaryotic cells. Each organelle has a specific cellular function. The nucleus, for example, is an organelle used for the storage of DNA. Atoms, molecules, macromolecules, and organelles all combine to form a cell. A cell is the smallest level of organization that can be considered alive, and therefore is considered the smallest unit of life. At the organismal level, cells are organized into 4 levels of complexity. Cells combine to form tissues, which are groups of cells that act as a unit and perform a specific function. For example, cardiac muscle is a type of animal tissue that has the ability to contract. Tissues are grouped into organs that also perform specific functions. The heart, for example, is an organ composed of cardiac muscle tissue that contracts in order to circulate blood within the body of an animal. Organs, in turn, work together in organ systems.
What's the definition of an animal? I've had it in the word plays. Y'all don't remember that from any of the word plays? Nope. Animal means one who is animated. It means people are animals as well as what you would call beast. Those used to be called deer. What you call animals today were actually called deer, all of them, whether it was a rat or a dog or what you call actually a deer. Today, those are all called deer, the beast. But everything was an animal. And then just to mean to be animated by the breath, by a spirit.
That contracts in order to circulate blood within the body of an animal. Organs, in turn, work together in organ systems. The circulatory system, for example, consists of the heart, blood, and blood vessels that all work together to move nutrients to the cells of the body and remove waste materials from these same cells. And finally, various organ systems work together to form a complex organism, such as a human. The organization of life also extends beyond the level of individual organisms. The next level of organization is a population, which is a group of similar organisms living in the same place. A group of persons living in your...
So really quick before they get into the macro organizational levels, the micro organizational levels from atoms to humans, or to atoms to the animal. You can see, let me go back real quick. So you can see all these different levels or these organizational systems are working in unison, not doing or not being of the same thing. So this is what they talk about, or this is the blueprint of how everything works. I don't have to be what you are. And so in a business, you will see the same thing. You got marketing. Then you have, you may have PR. Then you have accounting. Then you have, uh, uh, the financial, I forgot what the name escapes me right now for the corporation, you know, but the finance CFO, whatever that is. But, you have all these different, and everyone has their own thing. No one else is worried about what the other one is doing, but they're all living on their own, doing what their purpose is, contributing to the main whole, which is that body, which is the body function.
Accounting, right?
Yeah. Well, accounting is not no.
I guess that's a broader sense of it when for
right.
financial.
Accounting is something different necessarily.
Okay.
But you see my point is all of these different departments and compartments, and they're all working in harmony. You know what I'm saying? There's okay, he got that over here, so I need to get this, and I don't need to get that over there because he got it. Like no, you know what I'm saying? The heart is like okay, the veins got. I don't need to be the vein because I'm the heart. I do the pump. The veins they carry, and boom, it's all work. And I don't have to worry about what you're doing over here because you are the dog. You the top dog of what you doing. So all I got to do is just know is trust that you got your bit, you got your thing handled, and I'm gonna do my thing, and it's gonna work out like that. And this is where most melanated people fail in their organization because they be too worried about what the other person is doing. Well, how come I can't do that over there? Well, I need to be doing this right here. But wait a minute, I want to be doing. You're missing the point. Can't be 50 chefs in the kitchen. Who gonna serve the plates? Who gonna clean tables?
Somebody gotta be the cook. Somebody gotta be the waiter.
Somebody gotta do. You got all that. And so, this is something again that Caucasians understand on a base and deep level, on a very fundamental level. You know what I'm saying? They don't, and they're able to do it also because, you know what I'm saying, they're not as what's the word I'm looking for?
Combative.
Well, not combative. That's not the term I'm looking for. Caucasian people are more so they don't pick up. They don't know. So just on a scientific level, they don't pick up as much frequency as somebody does who has of the darker hue, right, of melanin, who's much more melanated. So it leads them to have to organize more because they don't receive as much frequency. So it's just like being out in the wild or something. You know what I'm saying? If you don't, you don't have as many resources, you have to band together in order to increase your effectiveness. So whereas brothers, again, having that melanin, it does allow you to receive so many different frequencies and so many different perceptions and vibrations that, it's hard to make sense of them without your vibranium instructions. And so we're all over the place. It's like it's like having a supercar and it just being on, and the autopilot is broken. And you don't have no idea how to steer it. So brothers be all over the place. Oh, nigga, I want to be doing this. I want to be doing that. Oh man, I want to be doing it. And they don't have any. You can't bring it in and discipline themselves to calm it down. You ever see the Man of Steel, the new one, the new Man of Steel. So the new Man of Steel, if y'all remember at the beginning, where when he went to school, he was hearing all those different frequencies. He couldn't block it out. Remember when he first started to get his super hearing? And he couldn't block out the frequencies, and he went to school and he ran in the closet. And then his mom came and got him out of the closet when she had to talk to him and told him to block everybody else and just focus on her voice and block everybody else's voice out. So that's melanated people's problem. They don't understand that what their melanin is doing. Your melanin is picking up so many different frequencies and vibrations You don't know it though. But your body is affected and your thoughts are affected by these different frequencies and things that go around, unless you're conscious of it. You know, or unless you're a highly strong-willed and conscious person. But everybody's not like that, being able to direct your thoughts and block other things out. But this is the same. This is why brothers find it really hard to organize though. Is because they're all over the place. You're receiving so many different frequencies all over the place. It's hard to gather them and put them all in one place. So Caucasians, they don't have that problem. Not to mention the fact that they got 1,000-year head start on, you know what I'm saying, being forced to organize because of the oppression being put down by the Moors. You know what I'm saying, by that whole Moorish that last Moorish wave that we had. So if you've been you know, smashed on for 1,000 years, you best believe that your organizational skills after 1,000 years better be on point, or you full of what you been doing for 1,000 years. If you ain't been learning how to get together and smash on the people who been holding you down for the last 1,000 years, you tripping. So that's why. We're back in.
The next level of organization is a population, which is a group of similar organisms living in the same place. A group of persons living in your hometown would be considered a population. All the populations of a particular kind of organism together form a species. Members of a species are similar in appearance and are able to interbreed. The modern species of humans, to which we all belong, is referred to as Homo sapiens. The next level of organization is a community, which consists of multiple different species occupying the same region. Humans, for example, typically share their neighborhoods with dogs, cats, birds, trees, grasses, and numerous other species. When communities interact with parts of the non-living environment, like water, gases, soil, and climate, they typically share their neighborhoods with dogs. Organization is a community, which consists of multiple different species occupying the same region. Humans, for example, typically share their neighborhoods with dogs, cats, birds, trees, grasses, and numerous other species. When communities interact with parts of the non-living environment, like water, gases, soil, and climate, they form what's referred to as an ecosystem. Collectively, all of the ecosystems on the planet make up the biosphere. The biosphere contains all parts of the Earth, from the atmosphere to underground into the deepest trenches in the ocean where life is possible.
So, showing you just on the base level from nature, you're not going to escape working together. If you do, you are against nature. You are disharmonious. And you're going to constantly be running into shit. So, and so that was the whole point of what I was saying of what melanated people need to do in the future is not try to get back what you had before as far as tangibly physical shit, but get back the knowledge of what you had before that teaches you how to gain whatever you need, whatever resources you need, you can go and reacquire them. See, brothers have this mentality of, I don't have stuff, so I'm never going to have it. So give me what I don't got. Instead of saying, oh, I'll just go out and get it again. If I used to have it before, what's preventing me from going out and getting it again? Oh, just me. The fact that I don't think I can do it, or I don't have the information on how to do it, which is where they understand, if I can keep you brothers separated, you'll never come back and regain what you had. You have the very base level is organization. And if I can keep all of you guys separated and even separated, keep you from understanding even what organization is, or even how powerful it is, just to come together and be of one mind. If you think about it, everything is like that. Even in a symphony. In a symphony, you have different instruments all across the board. You got the tuba, the clarinet, You know, your flutes, your trombones,
Bassoons.
man, your violins, man, it's all over the place. Cellos, so many different instruments. Some of them may look similar, some of them may be completely different. Saxophone, but then we're playing the song. And when we're playing the song, we may be playing, you know what I'm saying, we're going to be playing different melodies or different, you know what I'm saying, or different tones. But we're all going to be playing it on one key note. See, that's the underlying agenda, frequency, the motivation that we're all on. Yeah, we're all different. We all do different things. We vibrate differently, but we can all focus that energy, our different energies, in one space, which is the keynote. So when the symphony is going, there may be all of them are playing different tones, but we're all playing it in what? A sharp, B flat, whatever it is. Everybody's playing it on that one keynote. That's the universe at its base core. So getting into these different structures, these organizational structures, is where your future is going to be. So like just taking reclaiming of your status. That's fine. That's all well and good if you try to reclaim your status, but if you don't know what to do with it after that, what's the point? You might as well do the same stuff you're doing now. if you're not going to use it, and how do you use it? You have to come together with other people on the same keynote. Like, all right, you're doing this over here, you're doing this over there, but we all of this one note right here. We need to be bam. So that's where your organizations and corporations comes in. And this is why they've given so much power to these legal personalities and legal fictions in the future. And started to take the rights and powers away from the individual person, the natural, what they call the natural in law, the natural persons. So just understanding, again, going back to the base understanding of the organizational system, then we get into how does that play into us organizing into a corporation where we can actually make some moves. How do those two things equate? So this is actually a dope ass video that breaks down morality behind business. So the evolution of business and the different ways of how a business should be, organizational systems are, and how they should be on a level where they'll never end, and because the frequency and the vibration and the karma and the harmony of them will never end. So this is actually a dope ass video that I just found, because I was actually going to do one by myself, but then he said his production in here costs a little bit more than I would be able to put down, so I'll just show y'all this.
Welcome to the evolution of business. The world of business is in crisis. We are facing unprecedented challenges. We have created a world where some companies are not allowed to fail.
Hold on, before I get in that. Before I play that video, actually. So we have to break down. I want to go back in history though and break down the origin of because I know we probably seen this. Did we see this one already? This origins of business. Did you guys see this video? If you did, you probably don't remember it.
Can't say that we have.
Okay, so before we watch that one, because that's actually the wrap-up video where we want to be and where we're going. But we have to understand though where this corporation and that mentality started. So let me see. So this is the history of the legal personality. This is when the legal personality, separate from corporation, was created. This was in England with this decision right here. So just peep this, and then we'll move on from.
This company.
The history of
fundamental principle of company law is that a company registered under the Company Acts is an artificial.
All right.
A fundamental principle of company law is that a company registered under the Company Acts is an artificial legal entity, separate and distinct from the members of which it is composed. This principle was endorsed in unequivocal terms by the House of Lords in Solomon versus Solomon. This video will introduce the facts of the case and discuss the decisions of the courts in their socio-economic and political context. It will demonstrate that the approach adopted by the House of Lords was not to lay down any revolutionary principle of law, but merely to give the Company Acts their literal meaning. At the end of the 19th century, the streets of Whitechapel, East London, looked a lot different to the way they do now. It was one of the dirtiest and most poverty-stricken industrial districts of London. Aaron Solomon, a Jewish naturalized Englishman originally from East Prussia, had a small but profitable business as a leather merchant and boot manufacturer. His wife, daughter, and 4 sons were all actively involved in the daily running of the business. Aaron Solomon decided to incorporate his business and make his sons partners. The sons were dissatisfied with their position as servants, and they kept pressing their father to give them a share in the concern. Therefore, Mr. Solomon did what hundreds of others have done under similar circumstances. He turned his business into a limited company. To incorporate, the Victorian Company Act required at least 7 subscribers to the memorandum. To comply with this provision, Aaron Solomon and 6 family members subscribed to the shares. Every family member got 1 share each, and Mr. Solomon himself subscribed to 20,001 shares. The company was incorporated successfully, and therefore it was covered by the limited liability clause. Limited liability allowed the company to be identified as a distinct legal entity from its owners. However, at the time there was a public mistrust of such companies. According to McQueen, the daily press asserted that England was becoming one vast mass of impersonalities. Nevertheless, Aaron Solomon and Company Limited was now successfully incorporated, and the creditors had full notice that they were no longer dealing with an individual. Not long after incorporating, there was a general downturn in the economy followed by worker protests. Aaron Solomon and Company lost institutional contracts such as those with Army Board. The company had difficulty selling its stock. To keep the company afloat, Mr. Solomon, his wife, and the mortgager, Mr. Broderick, lent money to the company by means of secured debentures. The company failed to repay the interest to Mr. Broderick. Thus, he initiated a legal action to redeem his money. As a consequence, the company was placed into liquidation. Solomon claimed to be entitled to the remaining assets of the company in priority to the unsecured creditors, on foot of the secured debenture. The liquidator argued that the debentures were invalid because the company was an agent to Mr. Solomon, and therefore Aaron Solomon should be made personally liable for the debts of the company. In the court of first instance, Judge Vaughan Williams held that Aaron Solomon used the incorporated company as an agent for himself, ruling that Solomon should have to indemnify the company in respect of its debts to the unsecured creditors. The Court of Appeal upheld the decision of lower court. This time, however, it reasoned that Solomon had abused the privileges of incorporation and limited liability, using other subscribers to the shares as mere puppets, and continued carrying on business as a sole trader. According to Hutchinson and Langlois, these legal proceedings did not impress the business community and also called into doubt Aaron's original motives for incorporating his family business. In the midst of these legal proceedings, the Shoe and Leather Record Journal, in demeaning and anti-Semitic terms, stated that Aaron should cease to engage in financial juggling with a vengeance. Nevertheless, the case reached the House of Lords, where their lordships considered the decision of the Court of Appeal to be indecisive and incorrect, and ruled unanimously in favor of Mr. Aaron Solomon, reversing the appeal.
I am at a loss to understand what is meant by saying that A. Solomon and Company Limited is but an alias for A. Solomon. It is not another name for the same person. The company is, ex hypothesi, a distinct legal persona. If the legislature intended to prohibit something, you ought to know what that something is. All it has said is that one share is sufficient to constitute a shareholder, though the shares may be 100,000 in number. The unsecured creditors had full notice that they were no longer dealing with an individual, and they must have taken to have been cognizant of the memorandum and of the articles of association. A creditor who will not take the trouble to use the means which the statute provides for enabling him to protect himself must bear the consequences of his own negligence.
So what did he just say right there? Y'all understand what's going on in this case?
Kind of, sort of.
So you give me your take on what you think is going down in this case. So what you see.
Well, from what it's saying, it's like is that it's a company that was run by a family of the same name, and they basically didn't have the money to pay their debts, and the company ended up getting liquidated, and the people that were owed money or were coming to get their just due, and the guy who owned the company was saying that he was entitled to the rest of the, I guess, the attributes, or what you want to call it, of the company. And the lawyer, well, the judge is saying that this is a company that is not basically a cover-up, if you will, for the person. This is actually a company, and it's a separate entity, and this has been a known situation for quite some time. So even if you didn't know, you should have known. So well, you can't.
They did know. No, see, so so you're pretty much right. You're like 80%, 90% right.
Okay.
Yeah. So Solomon turned his family business to a corporation. Basically, got his family in on it and said, "Yo, I'm about to turn the business to a family business. All y'all gotta do is just buy a share. That's all I need y'all to do. All right, word, good. Y'all buy a share, boom, we're a corporation. Now he's Solomon, whatever, Inc. Right? So now they start losing money, right? So somebody come in, invest, give them money, they lose that money. So now they got to liquidate. So homeboy come after and say, yo, I need to get my money back that I invested in this, that I invested in your company. But before, when he turned the company into an LLC, limited liability, he sent out notice. So he told them that, the sole proprietorship of business that once was is no longer, and we're under limited liability, blah, 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 whatever it was in the letter. And he gave them notice. So if they were going to dispute that, they were supposed to dispute that at that point. So this, they didn't say anything. They kept on doing business as usual. Boom, boom, boom. Now then they start suing. It gets to both of the courts. you know, the first court, the lower court, and then the appellate court, and they're both trying to say, well, no, you know, they basically see what he did. They basically see what he was trying to do. His underlying purpose was he was trying to get over and escape liability, which is what it is, limited liability. But then the judge at the top, he read the law to them. He read the letter of the law. He's like, look, no matter what y'all think his intent was, he followed the letter of the law. No matter, so you can't punish him for because you think his intent was because you think he was shady. What happened was he did what he was supposed to do legally, turned his company into a corporation. He gave them notice, so they had ample time, and were fully aware of who he was. So they can't come back later after they lose money and be like, oh no. Why? Because notice is law. This is very important.
Right.
When y'all and you're dealing with your status correction, notice is law. When you change your status and you notify them and they don't respond because they can't respond because they're a corporation, that's what will happen. And they don't respond, that makes it law. That's literally what makes you changing your status law. Once you change your status, you will notify them you're severing your contracts and all this and that. We'll get into that. But once you notify them that you're severing your contracts, and then you say you have 30 days or however many days you give them to respond, and they don't respond, that becomes law.
Because they acquiesced.
They acquiesced. So that's what happened right here. So this is the beginning of the legal fiction, or the limited liability, the corporation being limited. So we're gonna get into where the corporation came from before that, but this is the limited liability. This is what separates. This is why you want to start organizing mainly. They started corporations more so because it was, you know, we're going to get into that. It was a way to make massive amounts of money as groups of people. But the main reason why you get into them now is because it leaves you what's called that corporate veil. It leaves you separate. So it gives you a suit of armor to walk through society with, through the public with, that you can do. You can hang, you can do whatever the hell you want to do. It's like Avatar, like the movie Avatar. You can do whatever the hell you want to do. They can fuck that whole, they can do whatever the hell they want to do to that body, which is why it's called corporation, corpus. But they can do whatever they want to that body, but the real person is asleep somewhere in damn in a computer chamber, like in the Avatar. My real body's over here. So that was the whole. So this began that whole philosophy of limited liability, or damn near no liability, really, what corporations don't do today. Started in 1897. But the history of the corporation, you gotta understand that, because who's ever watching this after the class, if you aren't in this class and you're coming and you're watching this, you have to understand fundamentally what organization is and why you organize. And it's not about money, it's about power and resource. There is more power in unity. That's what the whole fist thing is about. When you got 5 fingers and you try to punch somebody with 5 individual fingers, you can break any one of them damn fingers. You may break them all. But then you curl them up into a fist, that's strength. Now punch somebody. So
is it safe to say that this is the cat that possibly stumbled across the loophole for the dead entity?
what do you mean?
Or when he did this, I guess I'm trying to say he might have put a lot of other people.
It wasn't a loophole, really. It was the law. Like he didn't. So this is the thing. So what the judge said was, you can't use the law to, you know what I'm saying, to try to infer what he meant. Like you have to use the letter of the law to what it was. He was saying this was the higher court, the Supreme Court was saying to the lower court, the appellate court, and the other lower court. Like, man, y'all just can't sit up here and because you think you knew what he was doing, say interpret. You have to. If the law meant something specific, you need to put that in the law. But you can't come up here and sit up and say, well, you know you were being shady. Well, how was it? You have to enumerate that. How was he being shady? Because according to this right here, he followed the letter of the law. He told them who he was. He gave them ample time to answer, and he changed his business legally. So
Right.
so
So I
that's
guess I misspoke then. He possibly put a lot of other people on notice what you could do.
right. Well, when you say, yeah, I changed, I'm converting my business structure to such and such. You don't know what that means in business. That's not his fault that you're not savvy on business.
Right.
It's not his job to educate you on what that means. But that he's changing his business from a sole proprietorship to a limited liability. That you should know what that means. You should say, oh damn, that means that if some shit goes down, that means
You can't come after him.
right, I can't come after him. So then I need to go ahead and initiate some type of legal action in order to stop this. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like a cease and desist, or not a cease and desist, but like what's the word I'm looking for?
Not a complaint.
Damn, I can't remember that. I can't remember the name. And it's like a stop action or not a stop action. Damn, it's like a dispute. It's like a dispute claim, but I forgot.
Not an injunction.
No.
I know exactly what you're. I can't think of it myself. So.
No. But that's what they would have had to do when he alerted them that he changed his business structure. If you didn't agree with that and you were in business with him, then it's up to you to go and dispute that and say no. We had business business under this legal entity, and these laws need to be, or these laws under this legal entity need to apply to our business. So that's what he would have to do.
Because he basically changed the contract.
Pretty much. That's basically what he did. Yep.
And when you didn't, and when you didn't dispute him changing the contract, you agreed to it.
You agreed to it. You acquiesced.
Yeah. So it was a whole new contract.
Right.